most banned fighting techniques don't work the way you think they do. Some are myths that Hollywood turned into gospel. Others are so devastatingly effective that regulators had no choice but to outlaw them completely. The truth behind which moves actually end fights and which ones just sound scary reveals something most martial artists won't admit. When the UFC launched in 1993, it marketed itself as no-holds-barred combat. Almost anything went. The only rules: no biting, no eye gouging, that was it. Senator John McCain called it human cockfighting and tried to ban the entire sport. By the year 2000, everything changed. The unified rules of mixed martial arts created dozens of prohibitions, transforming underground brawls into regulated competition. But here's what matters. Many techniques were banned not because they're ineffective, but because they work too well. Let's start with the technique everyone assumes is a fight ender: groin strikes. Pop culture has convinced people that one shot to the groin drops anyone instantly. Reality tells a different story. In early UFC events, groin strikes were completely legal. Fighters used them. Some landed clean, but fights rarely ended because of them. The Keith Hackney versus Joe Son bout is the perfect example. Hackney landed brutal groin shots. Joe Son was clearly hurt. Yet the fight continued, ending by other means entirely. When adrenaline floods your system during a real confrontation, pain tolerance skyrockets. Watch what happens when referees don't stop the action after an accidental groin shot in modern MMA. Many fighters just keep going. They wince, they adjust, but they don't collapse. Does it hurt? Absolutely. Will it stop someone? Sometimes. Is it the magic bullet people imagine? Not even close. The effectiveness depends entirely on accuracy, timing, and whether your opponent is already compromised. A trained fighter with superior positioning lands groin strikes far more effectively than an untrained person flailing desperately. Eye gouging presents an even more interesting case. It's illegal in every combat sport for obvious reasons. Poke someone's eye and the fight stops immediately for medical attention. The technique sounds devastating. Your eyes are sensitive, vulnerable, unprotectable. Except they're not as exposed as you'd think. The orbital bone surrounds the eye socket like a fortress. Hitting that small target while someone's actively trying to hurt you requires precision that most people don't possess under stress. Your opponent doesn't stand still. They turn their head, close their eyelids, move their body. Any of these natural reactions negates the attempt and potentially puts you in worse position. Consider this scenario. You're fighting a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. Eye gouging is suddenly allowed. Does that level the playing field? Not remotely. That champion takes you down, establishes side control, and now they're eye gouging you from a dominant position while you can't do anything about it. Position dictates effectiveness. Always. This principle applies to every banned technique, yet people ignore it constantly. The 12-6 elbow tells perhaps the strangest story in MMA regulation history. The name describes the motion. Elbow starts at 12 o'clock, crashes down to 6 o'clock. This strike was illegal from the unified rules inception until November 2024. Why? Because commissioners watched karate demonstrations where practitioners broke concrete slabs with downward elbows. They concluded the technique was too dangerous for competition. John Jones lost his only official defeat because of this rule. He was dominating Matt Hamill at the Ultimate Fighter finale in 2009, landing 12-6 elbows from top position. Disqualification. The irony: other elbow angles that generate similar force remained perfectly legal. A sideways elbow to the temple, fine. An upward elbow under the chin, no problem. But straight down, too dangerous, apparently. Big John McCarthy, the legendary referee, argued against banning all elbows. He explained that without elbows, fighters would simply grab their opponent's wrists and stall. New Jersey Dr. Dom Coletta agreed, but insisted the 12-6 motion specifically was too risky based on those concrete breaking videos. UFC owner Lorenzo Fertitta told McCarthy to stand down. The rule stood for over 2 decades. Now that it's legal again, fighters are discovering what should have been obvious. The downward path generates maximum force because you're driving the elbow tip directly into the target with gravity assisting. It's becoming one of the most used elbow techniques in ground fighting. Headbutts occupy strange territory. Movies show them as instant knockout buttons. One headbutt and the bad guy crumples. Boxing matches feature accidental headbutts constantly. They cause cuts, they draw blood, they create swelling. But knockouts, rare to non-existent. The primary danger isn't concussive force, it's lacerations. A headbutt to the nose or eyebrow opens skin like a zipper. Blood pours down, obscuring vision, forcing doctor stoppages. In Lethwei, the traditional Burmese fighting art, headbutts are not only legal, but central to the system. They call it the art of 9 limbs. Yet even there, headbutts end fights through accumulated damage and cuts, rather than single-shot knockouts. The real story behind banned techniques isn't about individual moves. It's about understanding what makes any technique work in actual combat. Most people focus on the wrong variable. They obsess over which specific strike or lock to use. Meanwhile, trained fighters know the secret that changes everything about how these techniques actually function in real confrontations. That fundamental principle separates techniques that work on paper from techniques that work when someone's actively trying to take your head off. Position before technique. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors drill this into students from day one. It's not flashy, it doesn't sound like a secret weapon, but it explains why every banned technique discussion misses the point. You want to know who lands groin strikes effectively? The fighter who's already established dominant position. Same with eye gouges. Same with throat strikes. The technique itself matters far less than the control that allows you to execute it. Bas Rutten put it perfectly. Who delivers a groin shot better? A trained martial artist who works on precision daily, or an out-of-shape instructor who hasn't sparred in years? The answer is obvious, yet people ignore it. They fantasize about dirty tricks leveling the playing field against trained fighters. It doesn't work that way. The UFC fighter can execute every banned move you know, except they'll do it from a position where you can't defend or counter. Small joint manipulation reveals this truth starkly. Fingers and toes are fragile. They break before someone can tap out. That's precisely why they're banned in MMA competition. Not because they don't work, because they work too well. A fighter could snap 3 fingers in 2 seconds from top control, sidelining opponents for months with repeated small fractures. The competitive landscape would transform entirely. Krav Maga teaches finger breaks extensively. So does Hapkido. But notice something crucial. These systems teach them as part of larger control sequences. You don't just walk up and grab someone's finger. You create the opening first through positioning, distraction, or overwhelming force. The joint manipulation is the finish, not the fight itself. Heel hooks occupy similar territory in grappling. They're legal in some competitions like the Eddie Bravo Invitational and Abu Dhabi Combat Club. When permitted, they dominate. Razima Palhares built his entire career around leg locks, becoming feared specifically for his refusal to release heel hooks even after opponents tapped. The technique works so effectively that some argue it homogenizes competition. Everyone either attacks with heel hooks or defends against them constantly. The IBJJF bans them for this exact reason. Not because heel hooks are too dangerous compared to other submissions, because allowing them changes the entire strategic game. Suddenly, positional chess becomes secondary to whoever can secure a leg first. That's not inherently wrong, but it shifts what the competition tests. Strikes to grounded opponents tell another story. Soccer kicks and stomps were legal in Pride Fighting Championships. Fighters didn't die in droves. Many defended successfully using their guard. But the biomechanical advantage of gravity-assisted downward strikes against someone who can't move their head freely creates unacceptable injury risk. One clean stomp to the face of a grounded opponent can cause skull fractures that wouldn't happen from the same force delivered standing. Peter Yan learned this at UFC 259. He threw an illegal knee to Aljamain Sterling's head while Sterling had a knee down. instant disqualification. Loss of the bantamweight title. The rule exists because the force differential is massive when one fighter is planted and the other is standing. Even under revised definitions of what constitutes a grounded opponent, that particular scenario remains prohibited. Throat strikes were never legal, even in early no-holds-barred UFC events. The trachea and larynx are too vulnerable to crushing injuries. Unlike a broken nose or orbital bone, throat trauma can obstruct breathing immediately or cause delayed swelling that proves fatal hours later. You can't allow techniques in sport competition that create life-threatening emergencies the medical team can't address in time. Rabbit punches to the back of the head target the medulla oblongata and upper spinal cord. These structures control breathing and heart rate. Even moderate force to this area can cause permanent damage or death. Fighters sometimes hit the back of the head accidentally during scrambles. Referees issue warnings. But intentional targeting results in immediate disqualification because there's no safe threshold. One clean punch to the base of the skull can end someone's life. Spiking opponents on their heads falls into the same category. The pile driver from professional wrestling is banned universally in combat sports. Dropping someone directly on their head or neck creates compressive and shearing forces on the cervical spine that cause instant paralysis. There's no defense once you're being spiked. Your neck either survives or it doesn't. That's why even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments prohibit slamming, though ADCC allows it. Competitors who understand the danger simply don't allow themselves to be lifted into vulnerable positions. Fish hooking seems almost comical until you see the damage. Inserting fingers into someone's mouth or nostrils and pulling creates facial lacerations and muscle tears that require surgical repair. It's taught in some self-defense systems, but it's prohibited in all combat sports. The technique leads directly to other illegal moves because you're controlling someone's head at close range with your fingers inside their face. The line between fish hooking and eye gouging becomes non-existent. What connects all these techniques? They work, that's not in question. Banning them doesn't make them ineffective. It acknowledges they're too effective for competition where the goal is testing skill within survivable parameters. A throat punch can kill. A spike can paralyze. Small joint breaks happen before someone can submit. These aren't techniques that fail, they're techniques that succeed too catastrophically for sport. You down, pass your guard and establish you down. Pass your guard and establish mount can then eye gouge, throat strike, or break fingers with impunity while you struggle uselessly underneath. The fantasy that dirty fighting neutralizes training advantage is exactly backwards. Training amplifies the effectiveness of every technique, legal or illegal. That's what position before technique really means. Master control first, then everything else becomes available. Understanding banned techniques matters less than understanding why they're banned. These moves don't fail in real confrontations. They succeed too well, creating injuries that competition can't accommodate. But the fighter who controls position will always execute them more effectively than someone relying on desperation. That's the lesson regulators learned and most people still miss. Training beats tricks every single time.